Hi and welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how to save and load selections. So in other words, you can create a selection and you can actually save it in Photoshop, and then later on in your project, instead of having to reselect it, especially if it's something really complex, you can just load the selection back in here and do your thing. Okay? So as an example, let's take this soccer ball. Let's say we wanted to select this soccer ball so we could either change the color of it or cut it out and drop it into another image or whatever the reason is. Let's save it so it's ready for us later. And obviously this is a very simple example, but it's easier to learn on a simple example so that you can then go and use the techniques on more complicated examples as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Let's see. Can I zoom? Alt. There we go. I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to grab my magic wand tool, hit the W key, and I'm going to make it bigger with the square brackets, and we'll just start clicking and dragging around the soccer ball. Pretty simple selection. Get a couple of these corners, edges. Round things don't have corners. And then if you remember to get rid of selections, you hit the Alt key, or you can actually go up here and click here to do subtract. Now you're permanently in the Alt key and do that. But I don't like that. I like to stay in the plus and then just use the Alt key to work back and forth. So I'm going to take out some of the selection here. Working carefully. It's a little trickier where it's dark because it's not 100% sure where the edge of the ball is, so you keep having to tell it until it really gets it figured out. Something like that. Okay, and I've noticed I missed a couple spots, so I'm going to jump back in there and get those. Okay, now we have a decent selection. You could refine this, but we're just doing the quick and dirty for the example. So you have your selection saved. You go up to the Select menu, go down here and say Save Selection. It shows you the document that you're in. Don't worry about the channel, you can leave that on the default for new, and then you just name it, and we'll just name this Soccer Ball, and click OK. And now your selection is saved. And as you recall, if you hit Control or Command and the letter D for deselect, you can deselect that. And now if we were in an emergency and we needed to get that selection back, we could go to Select and Reselect, and we would get it back. But if we have deselected this, Control D, and we've done a million other things to this image or in this file, and then we want to get back to that selection we've already done a bunch of different selections. You can't just Control Z and undo everything that you've done. So since we've saved that selection, we can go back up to Select and Load Selection. It's going to show us our document. There's also a drop down if you need to grab a selection from another file, but this is going to default to this image, and then it also defaults to our soccer ball name, and then we just click OK, and presto, it pops that selection back in, and we're ready to go. Okay, so as you progress and get better at Photoshop and you start to do more complex selections, this is going to become really nice because you can save yourself a lot of heartache so that you don't accidentally get rid of your selection or move on with lots of steps that you can't go back. So you just save it and then you'll have it for when you need it. Okay? Oh, and one thing that's very much worth noting is that once you have saved your selection in here, you want to do a save as and save it as a PSD file, a Photoshop document, so that it will save your selection. If I do that selection and save it and then I close this out and don't save it, then that selection will be gone. So do yourself a favor, hit Control or Command S. It shows the Photoshop document here, a PSD file. Click Save, and then when you come back and open this again, your PSD file will have your saved selection in there and you'll be good to go. Okay.